In this podcast, I want to share with you the 4 basic steps involved in Zen meditation, and how, if you don't like what path your life is taking, how meditation will give you the power to simply change your trajectory. Through meditation, we can become more self-aware of how our lives are unfolding. And this self-awareness gives us the choice to choose your own destiny. A destiny where no one needs to live a life that they don't want to live. And you could even say that this is your human right, the right to choose. Hello, and welcome to the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind podcast. And today, I want to share with you how to properly meditate. Now, I've been getting this question a lot. Like, Jason, how do I meditate? What's the right way to do it? Am I doing it right? Should I do this? Should I do the guided meditation? Or should I just, sit down and do it myself? What's the right thing to do? So, in this podcast, I'm going to share with you why you should meditate, what's the biggest mistake you can make, and the best way you can start meditating right now, and actually the true purpose of meditation itself. So make sure you stick around to the very end, because if you've been struggling with meditating and you haven't seen results from your practice, then I do think this will be very valuable to you. And before we start, I would like to let you know that you can find free meditation tips and meditation audios that you can download on my website. And if you just scroll down to the description box below, you will be taken to a link where you can download the free tips. So let's go right ahead and get started. And first, I want to begin with a quote which I think relates to this podcast. However, I can't remember who said this, but it essentially goes something like, "Spiritual growth is measured by one's ability to focus on wanted thoughts, while at the same time ignoring unwanted thoughts." So, what this essentially means is that your own spiritual growth, your mastery of life, and the degree to which you attained mastery over yourself and your life is directly correlated to your ability to ignore thoughts that you don't want and focus on the thoughts that you do want. So, the biggest problem most people go through when they enter the spiritual path and they want to meditate and also develop spiritually is that they meditate for 30 minutes a day and they forget about the rest of the 23 and a half hours. And this is why most meditators I've seen, and you may know, and why maybe they have been meditating for the past 5 or even 10 years, it's that they still can't control their minds. They still can't focus on the thoughts that they would like to focus on and ignore unwanted thoughts. So they still find that they haven't progressed the way they were promised. And I started to think about, why does this happen? Why have people been doing this for the past 5 or 10 years, but they still haven't been able to see the kind of results that they wanted to see? And what I found is that they would just meditate for 30 minutes a day without bringing that practice into their daily lives. Their failing is that they misunderstood the real purpose of meditation, which was to become more mindful in our daily life and not just get that 30 minutes of stress relief. So consider, why did you start meditating? Was it to become more? Was it so that you can attain that mindful state? Or was it just for stress relief? So I want you to take a moment and think about this for a second. Why do we immerse ourselves in an activity? Is it simply to become better at that activity? And sure, when we meditate, we may get a short break from reality and even experience that bliss state. But is that enough? Is only 10 or 30 minutes a day of peace really all you can ever hope for? Action is the act of uniting the actor with the thing being acted on, whereas the doing is the process of uniting the doer with the thing being done. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I know I'm getting a little philosophical at this point, but what I want you to understand is the whole purpose of meditation The act of meditating. When you sit down and focus on your breath, this act brings order to a chaotic mind, and this is what meditation teaches. Meditation gives us that opportunity to learn unity, to unite the chaos and struggle into a unity, and then we can choose. Do we bring that state with us? Do we carry it with us everywhere we go? And this is also what is rightly meant by uniting the masculine and feminine energies, which is a commonly misunderstood idea in spiritual circles, since duality, although it is often called the masculine and feminine, also means chaos and order. So, when you bring order to the chaos of the mind, you also take a step closer to dissolving the duality and achieving the state of oneness. If you just understand this simple thing, nothing will ever be the same. Once I understood this, my whole life changed, because when I started meditating, I only really had results while meditating. But that was it. There wasn't really any improvement in my daily life. But you know, I was telling myself that I saw results. I was like, oh yeah, I feel calmer, and I feel this, and I feel that. But all the same problems were recurring over and over again. So in one sense, there are some prerequisites to the meditation journey. And I know this goes a little deep philosophically, but I want to give you something actionable for you to do right now. But in order to have any results from your meditation journey, you've got to understand the deeper principles, the deeper purpose of meditation itself. So, the true purpose of meditation is to become more self-aware to fulfill your purpose. It is an action that unites the actor with the thing being acted on. So, why do we want to meditate and become more self-aware, you might be asking? Well, please think about it this way. Meditation literally allows you to detach from things. You become a conscious observer of what's going on. And the thing is, only a conscious observer has choice available to them, to observe and choose how to act, how the rest of their life will unfold. So, to give you an example of this, you might be going through circumstances that you don't like. Now, if you're not mindful, if you're not self-aware, you don't really have a say in what happens to your life, or the trajectory of your life. If you're constantly reacting to your circumstances, if you're constantly complaining and feeling like a victim, and you're blaming external circumstances, then you're not taking any responsibility for what's happening. And you won't act in a way that will help you change your circumstance or shift your life onto a different path, to create a different trajectory to your life. And the only way you can do that is if you stop reacting, if you stop getting pulled by your thoughts and feelings. And you could do this through meditation. Meditation can do this for you. Meditation can make this separation between you and your thoughts and feelings. So, one of the benefits of meditation and why we practice mindfulness is to create this separation. And we create this separation so that there is a clear watcher, a clear observer, and slowly you start to see that you're not this character, this body, or this mind. You are not your thoughts. Sometimes people will have thoughts that they don't like, and they will start to think, oh, why do I have these thoughts? These are such bad thoughts. These are such perverted thoughts. Why do I have them? Instead of judging them, you simply view them for what they are, thoughts. It's just data in and data out, and because of this, you also start to see the mind more clearly. You start to realize that most of mankind's suffering is self-inflicted and would just disappear if people would just stop reacting, stop being reactive. Imagine a life where you will always have a say in which thoughts you focus on. The ability to focus on the thoughts that are wanted will be there, and that will determine how your life unfolds. So, when you gain mastery over the mind, you essentially gain mastery over your life. That's literally it. Gaining mastery of the action means, in its most basic sense, means keeping the mind in balance by simply becoming mindful of the action, becoming mindful of the doings. And by learning to become mindful of our thoughts, we learn that thoughts are just thoughts, and that we are not our thoughts. Like, oh, I had a bad thought, but so what? That's the biggest takeaway I want you to get from this podcast. Now, in terms of Zen meditation, I want to share with you the 4 basic steps on how to actually do zazen. So, by now, you've probably maybe tried out some of my guided meditations, and maybe you listen to music while you meditate, and all of those are good. But if you really think about it, back in the ancient days, they had none of these modern advantages. They just simply sat down and quietly meditated. Sure, maybe they had a monk who would give them meditation instructions, but they didn't always have that. The monk may guide them in their beginning meditations, give them the training wheels so that they could learn to do it themselves. And this is also how we use guided meditations. They are the modern equivalent of your training wheels. But the ultimate goal is to be independent of music and guided meditations, to be able to do it ourselves and bring it with us in every single area of our lives, in every single activity that we do, in our day-to-day life. Now, this is not to say don't use guided meditations or background music to begin with, only that as your meditation skill develops, you will not need these props. So let's jump right in to starting your meditation practice. And this is how I also do my meditation practice. So first is the meditation posture and the breathing, which is fundamental to a successful seated meditation. The correct breathing and posture are a fundamental part of your meditation practice. And while the mind may wander off into thoughts of the past and speculations about the future, the body is always right here, right now. As a result, this Zen form of meditation, called zazen, begins with the body in an upright and alert position. And because you're not trying to cause the body any pain when you practice zazen, if your posture is uncomfortable even from the start, it will become much more painful over time, forcing you to stop. Because you will be sitting still, and for lengthy periods of time, it is critical to have a posture that includes a straight spine that is also comfortable. The first step is to sit down and correct your posture. This is, without question, the most underrated aspect of the practice, and it should not be overlooked. Traditionally, only the full or half lotus positions have been used. However, you can also practice zazen in the traditional kneeling posture called seiza, if you lack flexibility. You can practice zazen in a chair with a wedge or cushion on top of it to create an incline, or by placing a wedge behind the lower back to help retain the natural curve of the spine. Duration is the second phase. This part of your everyday exercise should last at least 10 to 15 minutes, and consistency is the most important factor. With practice, you can prolong the session's duration. Practice is the third step. Zen monks frequently go on and on about postures and the correct type of cushion while teaching zazen, and when they get to the part when they're supposed to talk about the practice, they just say, "Just sit, that's all." Zen is empty. It is the philosophy of nothing. So in line with this principle, zazen isn't about anything in particular. You're not attempting anything, such as focusing on an object, being attentive, conscious, or even being enlightened. You're not aiming to change anything about the current circumstance. You're not trying to make people feel better or promote peace. Zazen is a subtle activity that entails letting everything be completely still, just as it is. So, after you're sitting properly, don't try to do anything else. When you enter zazen, simply take a vacation from doing things, from trying to achieve something or get somewhere. Thoughts will naturally occur. Emotions will come to the surface in this form of meditation. Everything is welcome. Any feelings or thoughts, whether positive or negative, pleasant or unpleasant, comfortable or uneasy, are permitted. Whatever ideas come to mind are okay. We're letting the mind fully express itself without any inhibitions or restraints. It's also quite normal if you don't like an emotion or notion that has arisen. In fact, if you find yourself unable to let go of an emotion, you should give it complete freedom to remain. Remember, zazen is the not doing of meditation. Recognize that you are a part of reality. As a result, you are free to be yourself, with all of your thoughts and feelings as the need arises. Paradoxically, this is not doing's power. The ego self, after first wailing and waving its metaphysical arms wildly, will in time tire and simply give up, like the spoiled brat it is. So, this is how zazen is done. There are also a few key aspects of this approach that you should be aware of. The first is that zazen is a highly developed type of meditation. It leads directly to enlightenment if done correctly. This is not the way to go if you only want to reduce stress or improve your focus. Concentration or guided imagery meditation, which I've discussed in previous episodes, is a better option. Zazen, as it is meant to be understood, is not about self-improvement. Self-improvement implies that there's something wrong with you right now, which you want to change or overcome. Everything is accepted as it is in zazen. Everything is in order, and zazen is not really about going anywhere. Being present in the moment is a dynamic process. As a result, no one can do zazen with expectations. Any such expectations will merely get in the way of practicing correctly. Okay? So that's step 3. And step 4 is to bringing this realization with you throughout the day. So anytime before you do an activity, anytime something happens, you just take a minute to slow down and you bring that realization, that meditative observation into your daily actions. Bring this meditative observation into your actions, your daily doings, just simply observing your breath or keeping yourself still for a few moments throughout the day, and not just going all over the place with your thoughts. It can be as simple as that. If you just take mindful moments throughout the day, you will eventually learn to bring that same meditative state with you into the day-to-day world. So as we come to the end of this podcast, I sincerely hope this was helpful. And let's do a quick recap of what we talked about. Today we talked about meditation. What are the benefits of meditation? What is the correct way of doing zazen meditation? And we also discussed how spiritual growth is measured by one's own ability to manage one's thought processes, to focus and select which thoughts to listen to and which thoughts to ignore. So, one of the main benefits of taking the time to meditate each day is that we can learn to bring that meditative awareness into our daily life, with the intent of uniting the doer with the thing being done. Meditative observation allows one to unattach from the reactive nature of the ego self and to take charge of our current trajectory. We can then choose our path from this point forward. And if you don't like what path your life is going in, you can simply choose to change your trajectory. That's it, the power of meditation. We can become self-aware and choose how our lives unfold. This is your right, the right to choose your own destiny. And I have another saying that if you're born poor of spirit, then it's not your fault. But if you die poor of spirit, then it's your loss, right? So, with that, I conclude this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and I sincerely hope this was helpful. Leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of this podcast, or if you have any questions. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new podcasts that I put out, and also if you would like more of my content, then follow the link to my website. Thank you for listening to the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind podcast. I'm Jason, your host, signing off. Take care.